Open controversy, where people are pushing back against the media's treatment of Serena Williams' meltdown, with one chair umpire saying the community feels abandoned by the WTA in the face of criticism. Meanwhile, Williams has earned nothing but media love for saying her outburst was about more than winning or losing a match.
I've seen other men call other umpires several things, and I'm here fighting for women's rights and for women's equality and for all kinds of stuff. And for me to say thief and for him to take a game, it made me feel like it was a sexist remark. I mean, like, how he's never took a game from a man because they said thief. For me, it blows my mind. I just feel like the fact that I have to go through this is just an example for the next person that has emotions and that want to express themselves and they want to be a strong woman, and they're going to be allowed to do that because of today. Maybe it didn't work out for me, but it's going to work out for the next person.
All right, the applause for the media there was interesting, but yesterday, New York Times tennis writer Christopher Clarey tweeted that men actually had 86 code violations during the U.S. Open, while women had just 22. Here we go again with troubling facts getting in the way of troubling emotions and a narrative. I said this yesterday, I just want to repeat. A lot of people, including myself, talking about this issue, only watch Serena Williams.
Okay.
And so they don't have any context, and they don't have the patience to wait for context, and then they don't have the initiative to go out and find context. And so everybody's just saying what feels good, including Serena Williams. But I think Christopher Clarey's facts here about what's really went on at that U.S. Open kind of undermine Serena's point. And I think when you look at the way the Umpire Association is rallying around this guy who was personally disparaged, called sexist, when I don't know if there's any proof that anything he did was sexist, that's just unfair. You can call him incompetent. You can call it a bad decision. You can do all that. But when you go to motive and it's because he's dismissive of women or whatever, that's a little much for me.
Look, numbers never lie, they say, huh? But they don't tell the full story. And there's a reason why Christopher Clarey's tweet, pretty concise and just number-based, because the story is much more interesting, and this is the experience Serena Williams lives. Think about it. She's saying basically, look, I crossed the line. I get it.
No, she didn't say that.
Well, she did in the response that men get away with more. So she's not talking about action like we said yesterday. She's talking about penalty. So let's talk about how she did one thing but got excessive penalty. She's saying the men do the same thing and their penalty is not the same as a woman. So here's some examples, because obviously we don't watch a ton of tennis,
right?
But I'm on the court. I'm a 3-0, 3-5, depends on the day. One player, male, only assessed a point penalty in his tirade of breaking multiple rackets. I'm going to ratchet this up. Then another player is fined $7,200, almost $10,000 less than Serena, for smacking a ball right into the umpire's eye, fracturing a bone in his eye. Okay, and your fine is not even half of Serena's. Let's continue. Andre Agassi, this is a name we both know, fined $3,000. Guess what Andre Agassi did? Called an umpire a son of a bee, and then supposedly, allegedly, inadvertently spit on him. I don't know what happened, but spit came from his mouth onto an umpire, rescinded, fine, down to $3,000. All she's saying is, hey, my actions, I get it. That's why I'm in hot water. But why is it at this temperature when with the men, it's at a different temperature and a lesser temperature?
Because, Marcellus, it's just like when we were kids, and you far more recently than me, there was always a parent in the neighborhood, oh, that's the house you can go have a drink at. Maybe smoke some weed, blah, blah. Because that's how they parent
over there. That's how they roll over there.
And then you got the other parents like, no, when you go over there, you don't cuss, you don't use the N-word, you're very respectful. Because that's how I'm thinking of one of my best friends, Willie Clark and Mr. and Mrs. Clark. That's how they parented. And so when I went over there, I carried a whole different vibe than I went, maybe, I ain't even going to say it, when I went someplace else.
There.
And so Carlos Ramos his reputation precedes him. And so you can cite examples of this guy and this guy and this guy who are more tolerant, but everything's on an individual basis depending on who you're dealing with. And again, his reputation precedes him. He's not some brand new umpire. He's been out here for a while. And then Serena's reputation also precedes her and puts her perhaps in more jeopardy than some other players because she's got a history.
I'm glad you said that because it's interesting. A lot of people are using the argument, well, since you know who he is, be on notice. And then whether you're being coached or not, you got caught being coached, whether you received it or not. Now you need to be on notice, Serena. But the umpire, Carlos Ramos, you need to be on notice to not insert yourself in this U.S. Open as the star of this moment. You're not the star of this match. And what happens is, like in basketball, any sport, when you get the first tech, the player's like, oh, I got to calm down. But the referees or umpire in this situation needs to say, it has to be egregious, the next act that is committed. Because if not, I'm going to insert myself as a star, and I know what that's going to look like.
And that's where it fell apart because the rules are crystal clear. When you break your racket, he had no choice. I'm taking this from Martina Navratilova and other experts. And so, again, I agree. The first penalty was over the top. He should have let that ride on the coaching, give her a soft warning, not a real warning. But once he gave you the real warning, now the path is laid out and clear. And then to come in and just, again, in this guy's mind, his character and these other umpires' mind, what they're complaining about, she went right at his character and motives, not, man, that was a horrible call. That guy interjected himself into a match that's much bigger than him. That was a horrible decision by him. I don't know his motives. Again, he could have needed a Snickers and just having a bad day. Ain't no telling what's going on in his personal life or why he's got a shorter fuse than everybody else. But when you just start labeling people sexist or racist and without any proof, it's just unfair, and it creates division, and it creates umpires who are now talking about potentially boycotting Serena's matches.
Look, understood fully that in that moment when she's taken a loss, and in her world, in a grander scope, she's like, this loss is unfortunate and unfair because I have seen less get away with this, and I've seen more get away with this. So why am I the one being tormented? That's the time where she said, I elect to get a win out of this. Hey, I'm not going to take all L's across the board. You already took a point. You already took a game. Let me now stand for something greater. And that's what people are applauding.
And let me overshadow the 20-year-old woman winning her first major. Coming up, last night, Twitter gave us a shocking revelation about Marshawn Lynch's past. We'll get into that and the best and worst of